Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pillar to Pulse. I am Rashaun Alleyne, and I'm joined by Kobia and Hamblin as usual. And we are going to be recapping last race day. It's the season of Emancipation Race Day. We're featuring the season of Emancipation Handicap that was won by Anissa. Kobia last race, it was pretty competitive. Life was great for some if you were back in Anissa, but if you were trying to pursue the $30,000 for the pick six, it was not.
And correct, you are. It was great for some and a bit awful for others. Anissa, one of my more favorite horses, she impressed me as of usual. And another horse that kind of caught my eye that day was Major Dan. Major Dan did very well, if I may say so, with 130 pounds. It makes him a very big player in the BTBA sprint coming up next race day.
No, agreed. And we're gonna run through the entire replay, and I think it was a pretty uneventful trip for everybody in this spot. And Major Dan was able to get to the front pretty comfortably here. And on paper, you anticipate that Rene is gonna offer pace pressure, but with 130 pounds, we just put him on the front, and he ran very well, as you said.
Yeah, it makes me just wonder how comfortable he'd be being taken off the bit because when you leave a speed horse up front to do as he like, he's really hard to catch, but sometimes you got to take them out, or sometimes I should say they're taken out of their element, and I need to see a bit of versatility here. And I actually saw that from Anissa. Anissa has shown again she does not need the lead, and she is very keen to run past horses when called upon.
No, it's important to, get dynamics that are favorable. But in this spot, I think Major Dan made her work a little bit, but she was close enough, and she had enough time to run him down because she comes off the bridle a lot earlier than he does. Ray floats her a little bit. I don't blame him for trying to make the filly uncomfortable. But as the call said, in the end, she's just so much class. And just really quick, like you mentioned, the BTBA sprint at the start. Dominus is returning, and I guess Major Dan is the next best. This is a performance that makes him a huge player if Dominus were to stumble in the BTBA sprint, but and he's still all class.
Yeah, you look through the field or the projected field, should I say, and knowing Dominus and Major Dan are going, I know if Dominus takes, as you said, any bad step, Major Dan will be the next character to take it. Because as we've seen, 130 pounds, well, let's add 2 more pounds, should not be a question of his. As we saw, Ray did as he can to stop the brilliant filly Anissa, but I don't think Major Dan was good enough on the day. Even with the weight pull, I don't think Major Dan's ever beaten her.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you never know because last time out she caught like conditions that were pretty tough and she finished second, really good second. But you never know on the day. But the horse did run pretty well, Major Dan that is, and Anissa just a lot of class. Donna's Trubling, who is rated a little lower than Anissa and Major Dan, because it was a 95 to 75. She's rated 76 or went in rated 76. Ran pretty well to finish third. Renee, who didn't get to the lead, set to finish fourth in a beating an out of form Lightning Lewis and an undisputed who's we know is not good at 5.5. So it's a pretty formful race, I guess, in the end.
Agreed. And the only key thing that I take from this race with Undisputed, I think that had to be a prep or a sharpen up for another start. I need to see where he's going to go next.
Yeah, it probably was a workout that he wasn't paid for. He paid to work out, but you never know if it may make him a bit sharper for his next start next race day. But that was the feature. It was the season of Emancipation Handicap. Anissa did what she was supposed to do as the 3 to 5 favorite. Uh, Ray wasn't, anything spectacular. Beckles did what he had to do, but for me, I'm going to give my right of the day to Lester Edwards in race number 4, the Kufi Handicap on Bahari Cove. And I'm going to set the premise here. I'm not even going to pretend. A lot of these races ran very straightforward. It was very hard to, look at these 8 races and say this was by far the right of the day because it was pretty uneventful for everybody. And Bahari Cove, what I like about what Lester Edwards did is a horse that's never shown this much speed. And Lester Edwards allowed him to get into the race and target who I thought was his biggest competitor in Dr. B, who ran very peculiarly in this spot. And Baharikov is just in some form here. And, being able to stay so close to the front and then run away from the rest of the field, I think is very important to show that Baharikov is just in the form of his life.
Agreed. And if you want a jockey who's going to take it to them, you do need Lester Edwards. And I do commend Curlin Felician for sticking with Lester over the years. I don't think Lester's ever put him in a bad spot, and he continues to do wonders for Curlin. Bahari Cove, who's been really good at 5.5 and 7.8. Unfortunately, he wasn't on the Derby trial at any point, but I don't think the owners or trainer, the connections, matter of fact, can be upset with him in any regard. This horse is doing as well as he possibly could.
No, I think people would not be afraid to take a shot if he were entered in the BTBA sprint. Obviously, there are other options and different classes for him to run in, but this horse is doing as well as any horse can be doing right now at the Garrison, and it's going to be very fun to follow and see if he's going to turn into our next top Creole sprinter, if he's going to start routing and take on, Valiant and Nostradamus, Raconteur and company. But right now he's doing really well. And I think Lester Edwards did a really good job piloting him last race day.
Okay, and completely agreed. But on the flip side, for my ride of the day, I'm going to go with my outsider that you couldn't understand, Intuition. Now, we had to do without Fool Me Not. Unfortunately, she wasn't interested in going in the gates for whatever reason. We can't think horse. But
Right.
I would have figured with the removal of her, my early leader would have been Intuition. Instead, it was the other great early riser who picked up the lead and dragged them along for the first about 3.5, maybe 4 furlongs. And Intuition was not necessarily stuck in the pocket, but I think positioned very well in the pocket along the rails by Delano Lopez, and simply sat and bridled and waited on his opportunity to open and circle early riser. And I've seen Delano put down this ride numerous times, and he's simply a veteran at these types of rides. Now, Intuition, as I said, was an outsider, and I figure this is a horse that would have thrown away the rest of the live pick 6 tickets. We have a big carryover, probably about $30,000-$40,000 for next race day. And Rashaun, I think that's going to add up to 60 grand by BTBA race day.
No, it would be amazing to get it to that number just so it would lure more people to participate, but it might be nearing record territory for 6 tickets at the trot. But to Intuition, I tipped my hat to you when it happened, and I have to tip my hat to you again. You nailed the call on Intuition. Obviously, we make plans and things happen. Horses are horses. He didn't get to the lead as you predicted, but he couldn't still have gotten a better trip. Sitting right behind the speed in the pocket, getting cover, staving ground, and when the real running began, he just tipped on Blue by early riser. I think that this was a pretty solid performance from Intuition, and I also was a victim of him, ruining a pick 6 ticket. So I think that's where the sequence ended for a lot of people. But now he's coming back next race day, the BTBA day. Maybe people are gonna, jump to throw him in their tickets now. But it was a really good call by you, Kobia.
Well, let's see what happens next race day, because another horse I'm keeping my eyes on is Early Riser. Early Riser has been switched over to trainer Ramel Level, and I don't think this horse has run out the money since he's been under Ramel. This horse has been improving with every start, and he's not going to win without me. I'm going to catch him.
Yeah, no, he's another one that's in some good form, real good exotic superflet to kind of play. Hasn't really won yet, but in some good form. But we'll see what goes on next race day, which is the Barbados Thoroughbred Breeders Association race day. It's running on August 23rd, Saturday, and it features the BTBA Stakes and Trophy. It's a grade 2, and it features the return of Dominus, one of our best Creole sprinters in quite some time. He's taking on the likes of Major Dan and Dancing Prospector, as well as Life is Great. And also the Francis Cozier Memorial Breeders Sprint Trophy. And actually, I read that wrong. The Breeders Stakes and Trophy is the grade 2. That's with Nostradamus and the other 3-year-olds, Raconteur and Mander Oriental. So we get the 1, 2, 3 from the Derby coming back just their next start. So that's going to be exciting to see. And then the Francis Cozier Memorial Breeders Sprint Trophy, which is a grade 3, which features Dominus and Life is Great and Major Dan and Dancing Prospectors just one race prior. And it's going to be 2 very competitive races.
I do agree. We get the long-awaited return of the Sprint King Dominus, and we get back the Derby winner, who was just 25 lengths, a Secretariat-like performance. We get to see her again, and we get to see if she can replicate that performance. We get to see if maybe someone else tries to take her on early, make her a bit uncomfortable, and play it for another closer. There's so many variables in the air, and we know what else is in the air, Rashaun? $60,000 for 6.
No, yeah, there's so much to look forward to on the 23rd. I think it's very important to see what Nostrasa does. I think she's now going 9 furlongs for the first time, and I think it's important to see if she's going to run against the clock, because a lot of people are thinking Tanglewood, but if she runs a certain kind of time with her tactics with Beckles, they could be thinking feature first Saturday in March, not supporting feature. But we'll see what she does, and then Dominus returns, and we'll see what he can do if he can stay on top of the sprint ranks. But there it is, the recap from last race day of the season of Emancipation Race Day, and we are going to bring our preview for the Barbados Thoroughbred Breeders Association race day on the 23rd. And thank you again for tuning into Pillar to Post. I am Rashaun Alleyne, and as always, may all your tickets be winning ones.
Good luck, everyone.